All right.
All right.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Crowded Headspace. It's been a bit since we last recorded, but you know what? Here we are. So, for today's topic, we're essentially going to go over ethical mindsets and motivations.
Whoa, whoa,
Wait,
whoa. You
what?
forgot my introduction here?
No,
Like,
I'm about to
you
roll. I'm about to
didn't
roll it. Relax, relax.
even...
We are your hosts. I am Peter,
My name is Ken.
and let's get right into it. So, this
Oh,
is your topic. So, you want to start us off? Kick us off?
yeah, I can kick us off as well. But before that, this is my tradition always.
Yeah.
Recording time of this is July 16th, 2023 at 10:56 p.m. Um, should I talk about it or not? Should I
What's
talk
that?
about the shenanigan, what happened?
What?
So we tried to record this
Oh yeah.
episode last week or the week before. It was 2 weeks ago or last week, one of those two,
Yes.
right?
2 weeks.
And then on our side that we forgot to click the record and nothing got recorded and we just talked for 2 hours.
Basically.
So yeah, this is the stuff that we kind of already are familiar with it in a way. So
Hmm.
there might be some plots already on with it, but we might be different because I talk about that later, which is today's topic, which is going to talk about is ethical mindsets and motivation. So the topic that I brought, the reason why I brought this topic in general itself is that it will be nice to know about your what you think in general. So when it comes to any action in general, especially like I don't know, like any making major decision making in general. So
Hmm.
how would you come down with it? And on top of that, in winter 2023, I was taking my social ethics incorporation. It's BA 354, which is business class in terms of ethical challenges in terms of business applications. And in the beginning of the class, we talked about ethical mindsets of individual and the first 3 weeks of it. And that gave me a lot of thought in general. I was like, oh, this is going to be interesting to learn about it. So I was like, yeah, I think let's do this as well too, because I'm curious about what you think, and I can
Hmm.
share what I have in general itself. And then from there, we can go on and think what we are and how we make our decision to itself, and so that later on we can have a better understanding.
Find some
So
ground
yeah,
of philosophical growth.
yep, that sounds about right. And my screen is bright. Give me 1 second.
All good.
Um, so I usually I will give you a test to do but this individual characteristic, having 6 characteristics, which is more identity, more idealism, more relativism,
Hmm.
conscientiousness, consideration, consolidation, chance of local control, and disproportionate and more disengagement.
Yeah.
Those are the 6 characteristics that I give you and give you a survey. I wasn't able to retrieve the survey that I took in the past, so I can't give the exact same detail in general.
You
But
go through a fresh one.
I can just say it out what it is, and I
Yeah.
can just ask you what do you believe in a scale of 1 to 7, and then we can do a comparison wise itself too.
I feel like my answers probably changed last time too.
Oh, really?
I don't know.
Cool.
It's just like I've given it more thought since our first like recording. Well, quote unquote recording. Oh yeah, speed of
The
recording.
first time we talked about it.
Yeah, speed
Yeah.
of recording. We're no longer recording on different software. Now we're on OBS, so things should be a lot more streamlined. So hopefully you all will have a better I guess viewing experience, listening experience, depending on what platform you're listening to us on. So hopefully that works
Was
out
it
well.
was it terrible in the past?
It wasn't terrible. It was just not as streamlined. In the sense that one filters would be applied in post, and so all of that stuff, audio at least, with filters. This also will probably get rid of a lot of more of the unwanted noise, stuff like that. I know there's one person who complained about my drinking, so
Oh,
so
well,
that should be resolved now. I've added a noise gate. Anyways, yeah. So,
all right, cool. Let me get into it. So, moral identity. Let's go from there.
okay.
So what qualifies as moral identity is the extent to which a set of moral traits essential to an individual self-concept. For example, essential to how they see themselves as a person. So if you deeply relate with that statement, it's a 7. If you do not resonate with that at all, it's a 1. Where would you put yourself as?
So moral identity in the sense that I have a strong,
Central
yeah,
individual self
okay.
concept.
So I have a good grasp of where I stand morally.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I would say seven being like I fully grasp, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, yeah. I would say probably like a five or six.
5 or 6. Yeah, that sounds about. No, I'm not saying that sounds right to you. I'm just saying like most
Yeah.
people should, hopefully.
Hmm.
Otherwise, they say like if you have a line where things should be right, should be wrong with it, right? That's why moral identity comes into it in general itself, right? And if you don't have that line in general itself, then yeah, we will be. I'll be asking you like, what makes you don't think you
There's some
have
stuff to
that
work on
line?
then.
Yeah, it's like you don't have a clear decision what's right and what's wrong, or you have a situational. Yeah, so
Hmm.
cool. All right. More idealism. The extent to which an individual believes in the natural rightness of behaviors or actions in a given situation and holds a deep interest in the welfare of all individuals. For instance, for instance, people with high moral idealism assume that positive outcomes for all individuals is always possible through moral behavior and action, and always think of harming others as wrong.
Okay. So I think this is the one where I gave a really like, I
Low
guess,
score on it.
yeah. So now with that wording though, that wording with like harming others. So that's within the scope of humanity. Within the scope of humanity though, I like so seven would be like there's a
Yes.
solid concrete right and wrong.
Yes.
Yeah.
You
Okay.
believe that there is something right and wrong with it.
Okay. Within the scope of humanity, I would say like that's a five.
That's a 5.
Yeah.
Okay.
But if we're talking like this is a response I gave last time. If we're talking like in the scope of all things, right? Just even past humanity in the universe, right? I do not think there is right or wrong.
Hmm. Okay, I can talk about that. We can talk about that in a second.
Hmm.
But I forgot to mention, my moral identity when I came to it was a 6 or 7. I think it was a 6.
Okay.
No, actually, I came as a 7.
Okay.
I was exactly know where I was because like
Okay.
I think that was
Interesting.
one of the. Okay, and then my moral identity is a 6 when I came out
Yeah.
when I did so. So you're saying that in humanity wise, there is always a right and wrong. There's a right and wrong majority of times. I guess that's
Majority
what
of the
it's.
time. I say that because there is a level of subjectivity to that. And what I mean by that is depending on the person, the culture, or whatever, whatnot, right? Of the scope within it, like the subscope within humanity, right? There are going to be like differences as to what's right or wrong,
Mm,
right? Because
right.
not everybody comes from the same walks and thinks the same thing, right? In some cultures may think like, though very rarely, there's probably cultures out there that think cannibalism is perfectly fine. While the majority of which that's a little outlandish.
Right. Right. And that applies even more further in depth of being there's no right and wrong
Hmm.
for like universal level. I'm assuming.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. Hmm. I don't know. For me, it's like I got it as a 6, like I said. So, like I said, I don't 100% agree that there is right and wrong for every single situation, but
Hmm.
I personally believe that there is always a way that will give the most beneficial to everyone. Will always have the most individual will have the most positive outcome if everyone behaves beneficial to not themselves to others in a way like.
Okay.
And I believe, and doing that, like I said, if you're giving happiness to others, basically that is a moral rightness to do. Even though maybe you're not feeling great, but everyone's doing that, you will also be receiving happiness of those actions. Therefore, everyone will be living happily ever and they're everywhere. And that's why those actual technically means it was an ethical action and that we should do that. Like that's I believe, you
Okay.
know. Right.
A bit of
So
selflessness and altruism.
so let me write this down for you. So you said you are a 6
Yep.
and more identity.
Five.
More idealism as I had 5 here. Okay, and then I have my number here as a 7, 6 here. All right. More relativism. the extent to which an individual rejects universal moral rules or principles in their decision making and behavior actions. So, universal rules, principles means ones that apply across different situations. So, there's always a right and wrong.
Okay.
In the case for that case for moral um, idealism, but moral relative saying that okay, in this situation, the most ethical thing is this, but that's not the same rule applying for this different situation B. It's always different. Do you agree with that statement a lot, which is a 7, or fully agree versus 1? You do not agree at all.
So let me reiterate back to you. So you're saying in one area, one perspective may be seen as wrong, and then while in another it might be seen as right.
No, no.
Or
Let's say that in situation A you have an
yeah,
argument and the best solution for that, like someone's upset and the best solution for that and the best moral rightness is doing a white lie or doing an
okay,
like you know what a white lie is, right? But if you use the same rule set, and we all agree that's the best way for it. But if you use situation B and you do a white lie, that was the worst case scenario. But a high moral idealism would say that that's still the best way because that's the most rightness for every situation.
mm-hmm.
There's a universal rightness, whereas more relatives like actually in this situation is not that.
Okay, so relativism meaning basically depending on the situation, some things might be more
Yes,
right than wrong. Okay, yeah, I would say like a 7.
a 7.
Yeah,
Oh, you strongly disagree with
yeah.
that. Agree with
Oh wait,
that. I
wait,
see.
yeah, wait, agree. You said agree, right?
Agree. Yeah,
Okay,
that's what
yeah.
I'm saying.
I'm like, wait a second. Yeah, no,
Strongly agree with that.
I
I
definitely
see.
do think a lot of things are very situational and subjective depending on what's the current context.
Okay, because for me, I think I got a 5 on that,
Okay.
5 or a 4. I think it was between those two numbers that I
Hmm.
got. What makes you like? So you think that every situation that you engage, there's going to be something that is right, something that is incorrect.
Yeah, I would think so. Because I mean, at least for me, my thought process is like this, right? There's a bunch of factors that come into play in making decisions, whether you're deciding to tell someone one thing versus tell someone another thing, and in whatever context you're telling them X, Y, or Z, right? And so, you know, what we have to do, like at least, mentally, is kind of subconsciously or consciously evaluate those situational factors, right? And then give our answer. There's, as humans, we're not the most like purely logical beings. We try to be, but oftentimes there's a lot of influential factors that kind of pick out what we say and what we choose to do, if that makes sense. So, take for example, a lot of social situations. Will be a great example for this. So let's say one person asks to play a game, another person also asks to play a game. Um, one of which you haven't played with in a while, but say you really want to play with them, while the other one asks you first. Then at that point, you kind of weigh, depending on your own morals and ethics, as to, which one you're going to want to play with. Do you take the more, I guess, chronological approach and say, hey, this person asked first, I'll play with them. Or this person, I haven't played with in a while, I'll play with them, right? And, kind of making decisions on that. Or like deciding on what to tell each one of them, because I mean, you can just tell the flat truth. Or some people, might play a bit more the finicky route, maybe lie to one, like you said, the white lie. Or maybe sometimes they'll just kind of delay and try to juggle them. I mean, like I said, that was a long-winded example, but essentially, it really depends on the situation.
All right, all right, all right. So, based upon these two, more idealism and moral relativism, we can classify into 4 categories of who can we belong to. So
Hmm.
right now you have a relatively a 5 is a high, we say, right? 5 is a high
Yeah.
score. So you have a high idealism and you have a high relativism, right?
Hmm.
Which kind of fits in your category. If you have a high idealism and have high relativism, you're a situationist.
Yeah.
Means
Sounds
that
about right.
rejects the application of universal moral principles, believe that moral acts should have positive outcomes for all persons affected by an action or decision, which what you just described it as is literally what you are.
There
So
you go.
hey, you know yourself better. Good.
Fitting.
For me, if I maybe it was a 4 for me of relativism. Not
Hmm.
thinking about it because I don't remember I was having a high relativism into it. But for me, I was considered as an absolutionist, which is low relativism but high idealism, which is approves corrections that result in positive outcomes for all individuals. Also believes that action should conform to absolute moral principles. So there's always the rightness and there's always the wrong. This, yeah, wrongness, rightness, and wrongness for it. That's where I think it makes sense. Like
Hmm.
just because just because I feel more towards this person, if that person is being nice to it, then I should be equally nice back to them as well too. However, that's not always the case as well. That's why the score itself is always on 7, both 7 and 1 in the case, right?
Yeah.
I do have some situationism and feeling as well too, in a way. People who think themselves, who's listening right now or watching us, if they have a low idealism and have a high relativism in the case, they are more subjectivist, which is basically saying they rejects moral rules and believes that moral decisions are subjective, individual judgments, and believes that negative outcomes do not necessarily make an action immoral. So that's very different than what we think in general self.
Interesting.
And if everyone says all low, if they're low idealism and low relativism, which is kind of weird, I would say, in my opinion, but
Okay.
exceptionist, which is accepts moral rules and principles, but willing to bend moral rules to avoid negative outcomes, does not automatically condemn an action just because it means negative outcomes for sure. For some, yeah,
Hmm.
for some. So, I mean, it kind of exists because I do know some people who be
Yeah.
like I'm doing this because I'm just avoiding this negative outcome as much as possible with it. But
I could see
again,
that. Yeah. I could see that in some people.
yeah, which means they have a low relativism and low moral idealism. So you know what they're not based upon their moron to their me. I believe everything is right and I believe everything is wrong in that case. Conscientiousness consolidation. The description for that is the extent to which an individual is focused on diligently getting things done.
Hmm.
So another way is that would you focus on the outcome, the results, or would you focus more on the process that you made up to the outcome? If you
Yeah.
care about the
The
process,
way you
it's a
got
higher
there.
score. Yeah, it's a
Okay.
higher score. If you care about, I don't care how you got there. If you just got this, if you got there, you got there. Um, if you believe that statement were correct, then it's a 1 or resonates you.
Hmm.
Where would you put yourself?
Hmm. Interesting. You know what it reminds me of? You know what it reminds me of?
One,
Thanos from Endgame.
right?
That's interesting. Um, 7 being outcome focused, 1 being process focused.
Opposite.
Opposite. Okay. I would say 3.
A 3. So you're a bit on the lowest side of itself. So you
Yes.
care about the results. For me, I got a 6 on that. So
Okay.
um for I think it actually came from my more like my family. I still don't see it that much all the time, but
Hmm.
my parents had told me like as long as you did your best effort as much as possible, we like, if and you still don't get a grade on it, it's okay because we know that you did your best for it.
Oh wait, does this apply outside of ethics?
I mean, that's
Okay.
and that thought process
Okay. Okay.
led to my
Okay.
mindset and judgment call itself, and that's
Gotcha.
why I believe that I don't care if you did bad at the end of the day, but if your moral intentions was always trying to be good and you try to do that action and stuff, then there can be some forgiveness in a way. And you have your you have your identity that you try to be good, but things could happen, right?
Mm.
in a way that the outcome might not expect it the way that you want it to be. That's why I think it resonates more close to the process itself rather than the
Gotcha.
results.
Okay. I feel like okay. The situationalist to me is like I feel like it depends. Because like
I love it. I
yeah.
love it.
So I mean, at least how I feel. If we're talking just life in general, I think the process, your journey, is kind of important. But in terms of like moral decisions, and kind of like what the result is of your moral decisions or pathways that you take, right? I think the results are rather important because I think that's what's ultimately gonna leave that impact. That's kind of the way I think of it.
Okay. Okay. Again, I can't say that's right or wrong. It's
Yeah,
just we have different thoughts and different
it's all a
beliefs
gray
in it.
area.
Chance locus of control.
All right.
The extent to which an individual believes that things in life and their outcomes are due to fate or luck rather than their own behaviors and actions. There's something
Yeah.
called external locus of control. Basically, um, external force. Like I said,
Hmm.
sometimes things happens that you can't control, and therefore it lets you unethical decision or ethical decision making. Do you believe that there is a lot of things involved when it comes to luck? Do you think there's a lot of external factors you can't control when it comes to making ethical board decisions?
So a seven would be a strong sense of internal locus control, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I
Wait,
would
seven mean being as I have complete control,
okay. I would
whereas one is
say I would say I sit around
wait,
probably like a 5 to 6.
wait. I think I
I'm leaning
reversed
towards
it.
5. I'm leaning towards 5.
I think I reversed it.
Where is it?
One being I no, I reversed the scale. I reversed the scale. One being that's what I said. One being as I have complete control, and seven being as I have no control at all.
Okay. I would say flip it, that would be yeah, I would say probably a 2.
Sure.
I so here's the thing. Even though I'm a like firm believer of determinism, right, which essentially states that everything like is dictated by previous events, essentially. Probably not the best explanation, but essentially, all of our background, like our backgrounds and where we come from in life, dictate where we are and who we are now, right? I'm sitting here
Mm-hmm.
because we're having a podcast. Why are we having a podcast? Because we scheduled it. Why did we schedule it? Because we wanted to, and so forth, right? The chain keeps going on. Um, so even though I'm a firm believer of determinism, I believe a strong sense of, I guess, internal control still falls within it. Ultimately, going outside of everything in terms of scope, right? I still think everything is dictated by where we come from, but what determines a lot of that, not what determines it, how we go about free will is all a part of that, if that makes sense.
Right.
It's a bit of an odd phrasing, but
No, you're right. No,
yeah.
I agree with that statement. It's the way I would put it as is that I mean, I also I came as a two as well too.
Hmm.
Because like there is factors that is luck that comes along with in life
Yep.
and so like you cannot completely ignore that. Like the term luck, the term of fate exists in a way, but we all talked about with famous quotes in general in terms of life is that you're the one who's controlling life. You're the one who's writing the book. You're the one who's choosing your path and fate and stuff. There is some luck involved with it, but you're the one who's choosing that luck
Hmm.
to go on with it, right? So I believe that there is luck, but very minimal.
Yeah.
That's why it's a two for me, and I think that makes you as well too, because you said it's situational and comes to it, but luck does apply. And like I said before, my consolidation. I can't talk the word. Um, Even though as I said a six, there's sometimes the progress matters, but if the end result does not show us moral like rightness, that probably came with luck. Like you can't
Mm,
control. That's probably the fate. Like just in life in general. Like for me, like working for this Adidas internship that I got in was a is there's nothing there's I cannot say out loud that there was no luck at all when it came to this.
yeah,
There was luck that had involved with it that made me to decision to able to get into it, right? So life does involve with luck in a way, but I don't think that it's a big factor to change. Oh my god, I have to do this way decision because
yeah.
my luck is going to this, and I'm gonna blame it on the excuse on this, right? So
This was the one thing I mentioned the last time too, but I think it'd be worth bringing it up again for listeners. I mean, I feel like so a majority of success, I think, is luck. Granted, there is always a small percentage of that being. No, wait, what did I just say? Did I say
I
majority
was
was luck?
that's what you
Yeah,
just
no,
said. I
okay,
was
so
like,
sorry, flip it around. Sorry, majority of success is skill, and there's a small fraction of it which is luck. And it's always interesting to think about how much of people's successes are due to luck. Granted, it's a small fraction, but you think about it, it's still kind of crazy to think about. Let's say, for example, in a simple problem where 100 people are applying to one thing and only 10 will succeed, and let's say it's 90% skill, 10% luck, right? In a case like that, right, on average, we could see, now my numbers could be wrong. On average, 9 of those people who succeed will succeed likely due to skill. But that one last person at the bottom, right? Chances are them and like the next 10 people could have been that one person to succeed, you know?
right,
It's interesting how much luck affects.
yeah, luck does matter, but again,
Mhm.
it's not the biggest factor
Correct.
at all. Right? That change or fate or whatever excuse that you can't control, right? All right, the last one, dispositional moral disengagement. The extent of individuals' general tendency to think about future and or the past behaviors and actions in a way that decouples or separates these actions from one internal moral standards. Basically saying that say that you have a baby in a room
Okay.
and it's midnight and you're sleeping and the babies are crying.
Uh-oh.
The moral rightness you need to do is wake up
Mm-hmm.
and the baby to feel comfort to stop crying and you go back to bed because baby is in a good situation. You're in pain, you're tired with it.
Nah, you just stay asleep and let it soil itself. I'm kidding, I'm kidding.
But that's one way you can do with
That is
it,
one way.
but you know that your wife who's sleeping next to you
Yeah,
will also be doing that as well too. You believe that you should do it because your wife has doing a lot of care with the child
I would do
in
it.
the daytime, but you don't do it at all.
Uh-oh.
That's disproportional moral disengagement right there.
Okay.
Do you do that a lot, or do you do that not a lot?
So,
A lot meaning as a seven. Yes, that's a seven, and doing not at all is a one.
okay, wait, can you re-explain it, but not in the context of a situation? If that makes
Yeah.
sense.
The extent of individuals' general tendency to think about the future
Okay.
and or the past behaviors or actions
Mm-hmm.
in a way that separates the actions from one's internal moral standards.
Okay. So the idea of past happenings and future outcome
Mm-hmm.
having an effect on moral decisions.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. 7 being having a high influence, 1 being a low influence, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I would say definitely a high influence. I would say 6.
A six.
Yeah. Knowing what's to come in the future and what in the past has happened before would highly influence the decision I make. I would say.
Okay, maybe you should give you a bit more examples to
Okay,
give you a
sure.
thought. Like, because for me it's a two.
Oh.
So for me it's a two. So like for example, moral justification. It means that it justifies things. Like whatever at the end of the day, it justifies itself,
Mhm.
right? That's what they think in terms of having a high disproportional disengagement means.
Okay.
Or like, oh yeah, it's just borrowing versus stealing, right? That the idea of euphemistic labeling,
Hmm.
an advantage comparison. It's not bad as what others did, that kind of statements.
Okay.
Or like displacement of responsibility. My boss told me to do this. Like I know that this is incorrect, but my boss told me to do this action, therefore I just had to do it. It's the same as Nazi. Like
Okay. Yeah, yeah,
Hitler said that I should kill these people. I didn't want to kill these people, but Hitler said I should kill these people,
yeah.
therefore I kill these people. Or diffusion of responsibility. I'll do these bad behaviors in order to fit with my social groups that I want to hang out with.
Okay. I see what you're getting at.
Right? Or disorientation of consequences. Nobody will get hurt by doing this, or that consequence is unrelated to what my behaviors are actually doing.
Okay.
Or dehumanization. They're scums. They deserve it. Right? Or that's attribution of blame. Like they deserve it. They're bad. Like that's why they like it's right just to do that.
Seven would be
But
like your. Seven would be like yours, your own.
seven being as you maybe have those kind of statements in your head a lot more than
Okay.
others. Versus one
Okay.
is
Understood.
no.
No, I'm definitely a one.
Maybe I described it wrong. That's probably the reason why. I was like, it should be a low
Descriptions
because
are
otherwise,
descriptions are rather important, I think,
right,
because I mean, when it comes to like surveys and stuff, you ask people questions. The way you ask can tremendously influence the way they respond.
right. So yeah, no, I agree. One or two sounds about right as well too.
Hmm.
Because, like I said, if you have a moral identity high enough, this disproportional moral disengagement should be low. That
Yeah.
should be the scale. Like if you have that both high, you don't know yourself basically. So maybe I would believe that you have a high disproportional disengagement, but you don't have a high moral identity. If that's the
Hmm.
case. So but yeah, based upon your characteristics that you have,
What did I get?
you do make some good. Let me just triple check. Uh,
Hold on, are you saying I could be a bad person? Uh-oh.
no, 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 no. You're more a close to a. I don't. Okay, I was like, I kind of disagree with that, but sure, I kind of agree with that. It's basically saying that you are an ethical decision maker relatively than others.
Let's go.
Let's go.
Ease it
But
up.
you do have that characteristics as society said that you have a high relativism than I do, and you have a low idealism than I do.
Hmm.
Right? So you're more situational, ethical decision maker. So sometimes you do make some unethical decisions, but you're most likely to make more situational, better ethical
Solid.
decision making itself. So not 100%, but like 80%,
Okay.
70%, you would say that you're in that case. So, what do you think about it? The whole results that you got in. Like, what do you
I think
think
it's
about
always
this?
interesting. All like different kinds of tests such as these, whether it's a personality test, moral test, political test, etc. It's always interesting to see different interpretations of one's own views and perspectives, and kind of contrasting that with at least how I can talk. An
Don't worry, I can
individual
know.
would think about themselves. Contrasting that I think is always interesting. Especially especially interesting when it conflicts with what one would think of themselves, right? Because then you get a little cognitive dissonance, and then it's like, interesting, something to think about, food for thought. But yeah,
Yeah,
I always think these tests are neat. I always like them.
I know that well, I didn't give you a test because it's more like you thought yourself what I believe in this case,
Hmm.
right? So maybe next time we can do a test before going to this podcast
Hmm.
recording or podcast hosting in itself, and then We can talk about what results we got, and then we should do the MBTI.
MBTI. I'm familiar.
MBTI.
The Myers-Briggs?
Yeah, my big type. I
I
did.
already know what mine is.
You already know what it is.
Yeah.
I have. You know, this changes a bit over time.
Yeah.
So maybe you should do it again.
I've done a total of like 4 times over the course of like 5, 6 years. It's come out to be the same.
When was your last time you did it?
8 months ago? Not too long ago.
Okay.
So
It's not too long ago, but hey, let's do one again. Let's
I'd
do
be
one
open
again.
to it. Do you
Because I
remember what
have
yours was if you've done it?
I done it as well too. I just if I do it, it's my fourth time doing it as well too.
Okay.
I don't exactly remember why it was. Let me look at it.
Mine was an INTJ. Um,
INTJ.
yep. Introverted. J means judging. The T means thinking. I don't remember what the N was.
I think I was an I think I was an INFJ.
INFJ. Okay. Oh, N means intuition. So you said INFJ?
Yeah,
Introverted, intuitive,
but
F,
I'm not introverted though.
feeling, and judging. Yeah. We're
But
basically the
I'm
same,
not.
except I'm thinking you're feeling.
Feeling sounds about right, but
Hmm.
I'm definitely not introverted, which is I think it's more like ENFJ in my
Okay.
opinion.
Interesting.
But who knows? Who knows? But yeah, we can definitely take that test, and then we can talk about the personality, and then
Hmm.
talk about the reports we have here. That might be a fun one to do.
That'll be fun. Yeah.
Write that down, Peter.
I'll add it.
All right, appreciate it. All right, now, this is probably the more interesting one in my opinion than the individual characteristic because this is actually because that's a scale. I guess I guess I don't know. Both of them are relative. This is more actually more closely related. So that tells you that you make good decisions or you don't make good decisions of ethically or not. Like that's what tells on most. But this one, common mindsets and motives for ethical mindsets, right, is something that would be fun to talk about. And
Hmm.
this is a lot of philosophy here, so folks who does not know about it, we'll try to discover as much as possible who's listening to it. So the first one, well, actually before we go to the first one as well too, these philosophy mindsets or ethical motivation is something that um, not everyone has just one. They might have multiple and mix. In fact, that majority of people will have it like 5 or 7 of them. Some of them are strong, some of them are weak in a way. And maybe they all have all of it, but there's definitely a top 3 or top 2 that's significant outstands the others a lot. So
Hmm.
that's to identify themselves. And so after hearing all the discussion that I'll give it to you and what do you feel about it, Peter and um, we can talk about which one we identify the most.
Sounds good.
All right, so utilitarianism or consequentialism. This is probably one of the most popular mindset motives, basically saying that um, whatever behavior action is, if it's benefiting the majority of people, I'm in. I'll do that action. So, instance, the goals is the results, it's trying to get the maximum outcome as much as possible as being the most positive thing. That people will tend to think about doing the benefit cost analysis, or cost benefit analysis, or maximize benefits with minimal cost, saying that with the amount of work that you do, what will lead the biggest outcome that provides the maximum benefits to the whole society or whole group or whole individual. And then a good metaphor is like a
Hmm.
microscope itself. So you're looking at one thing, focus on the results of that. You don't care about whatever things is not maybe not good. If it's beneficial getting results that I'm getting, that's beneficial to everyone. I'm in. I'm doing
Okay.
that action. Do you agree?
I would
Do
say,
you like?
yeah, I would say I'm a utilitarianist, for the most part. I mean, generally, like, most decisions I think that are made should be for the benefit of the largest majority. Because I mean, generally, you kind of want to make sure everybody's happy. That's at least the ideal goal.
Right. For me, yeah, I say sure. Yeah,
Hmm.
sure, sure. I can't talk.
We're
But
both having trouble with English tonight.
help, help me. But I would say I don't agree the most out of
Okay.
it. I don't like, sure, like it's great to
Hmm.
consider that if everyone's happy with what I'm doing, just that's great. But I don't think that is the right ethical mindset. Like that's the right motivation to do any action way
There are
that
exceptions.
benefits. Okay, I love you. I love you. Just always go. Situation. There's always situation.
There you go.
Now I know you. Next, dentology or Kent. This one has an ultimate right rules ultimate distinguish rights from wrong, fulfilling duties and obligations, rightness and responsibilities. So use the idea of categorical imperative, basically saying that if someone else like if I steal, it's not if I like to use the analogy of the shopping. So let's say that someone else trying to steal a banana, and that's ethically right. Let's assume that. Then that means that I also can do that as well too, and go along with
Hmm.
it. But however, I think that's incorrect. Therefore, that person is also doing
Okay.
um, incorrect behaviors, and that is the way to test whether that is morally right or morally wrong. So in some cases, it's very relative to your own belief of whether that's right or wrong. So that has some to there, but it's also very strongly associated with idealism as well too, because you have know that if everyone in the majority agrees that that is right or wrong of that action in a way, then they can judge it based upon it. And if that's wrong, they should not do it. And therefore, they should not do that. They should not have that motivation of doing that.
Hmm.
They should have a motivation of not doing that action. A good metaphor would be a telescope metaphor, saying that looking beyond yourself and why you're doing something self. Like, do you think the reaction that I'm doing it's morally accepted to do that from others in a way? What do you think? Do you agree with that motivation mindset?
I would say I primarily disagree with that. The reason why I say that is like if we're going off the majority, right, and what others think, even though majority might say one thing, it could still be wrong. Um, I know Socrates had a lot of issues with democracy, for the same flaw, and that is that like though the masses might all say one thing, right, and vote for one thing, it's not that does not exactly mean it is the correct answer. Let's say there's
Right.
one person who just happens to know something that the rest don't, right? And he's able to take that into consideration and making a better, an even better decision, right? That maybe everybody else didn't know about, right? And ultimately, who's right there, the mass or that one person? Well, you know, knowing that extra thing that probably makes the decision better. I mean, makes the choice better. There you go. Uh, Kind of the idea of how one smarter person will still beat out the majority.
For me, I agree more close to it, I guess. Because for me, at least, I was talking about before, I have relatively high moral idealism, which means that I believe there's a moral right and wrongness. So I
Hmm.
personally believe that my not judgment call, but I believe that if I see that's incorrect, that's what I'm doing it because I have a universal right and wrongness in my mindset. I believe that person whoever sees it doing wrong, I can judge it based upon it and look into it. Whereas in your case, you have a higher relativism stuff, which makes it why you believe that sometimes if the majority of people say that's agree with it, but actually the situation is you're saying that it's not, that's
Hmm.
why, which makes sense, right?
Yeah.
But for me, I think dentology Kent is what I believe was stronger than utilitarianism, in my opinion.
Okay.
Again, we're different people. Everyone have different mindsets and going on with it. So
Yes.
there's no right and wrong in general. It's just different. And that's also really important with listening. So in
Mm.
general, I
Mm-hmm.
honestly, I like discrimination, stereotype. I'm going way off topic right now. Gender, racism, um, having different political mindset, having different thoughts about different arguments and stuff. It's just not right or wrong. It's just different in a way.
Yeah.
Um, Racism and discrimination might be on the iffy side of that statement, what I just said about that case, because, you know, we personally believe that. I think, at least I think you're on the same page with me.
Same page,
There
pretty
should be
much.
no,
Yep.
there should not be no racism going on with it, and there should be no discrimination in a way. But but they're not like they're better than a way when it comes to discrimination. It's more like we're just different in a way. Right? We're different, and therefore we should acknowledge and understand are going on with it.
Mm-hmm.
And even here, right, we have different mindsets and motives itself, and we understand itself, and we're trying to go on with it. Right, that is the key that we should live on, and that is the key that we should go on with it. And if we don't have that, and that's actually what the current world looks like. That's why everyone's right now fighting. That's why everyone's doing that. I'm going to talk about a little bit not good with my mom about it, but she's politically one side over the other right now, and she has no idea of understanding the other side itself, and she even saying some stuff that she's not saying in front of me that it shouldn't be good. Like for instance, like they should be gone, they should be gone existence stuff because that's really bad, right? So there is some stuff that she can't really understand their side, but I personally believe that there's something on their mindset that they agree in a way. Like,
It's
there's
good that
more
you
right
realize
and
that,
wrong.
though.
There should be like there's okay. There are some people being I know that they're sociopath or psychopath that they can't really understand, but there's majority of people has the reasoning why they're doing this kind of action. There is no person who say that I'm not doing. I don't know. Like even I feel it, like that's already a motivation I want to do with it. It's not a good answer for it, but there is an answer for it that's saying that they're doing this action away, and you need to understand that. Like I think we talked about this in a previous podcast or something. As long as we can understand someone else's opinion side of stuff as our life lessons, um,
Perspectives.
perspectives in a way. Yeah, that's your lesson that you're talking about. The world will be in a better peace. The world
Mm-hmm.
will be a better place. And my mom right now is not going with it, and we need to understand our differences in a way, right?
I think you have a lot of perspective in realizing that and also knowing your own stance and being able to recognize, you know, how that meshes with your mother's as well and being able to accept that, you know.
Yeah, I mean, because fun fact, the my mother is one side of the politically in South Korea government. My dad's grandparents is the extreme opposite side. And so it's not entertainment, but it's just so close
It's
to seeing
interesting to
this.
just watch and happen.
Just watch what's going on
Yeah.
with it, and
No, I
just
feel
like
that. My father's very much he has his political stances as well.
mhm.
So I will say the influences in which created those are probably not the most ideal, but I understand why that how he has those. Um,
Right.
but yeah,
So yeah, see me here. Just because we have different mindset does not mean that we cannot be friends or we should not be co-hosts
yeah.
anymore. It actually gives you more variety of views and general stuff when it comes to it. All right, enough about that life lesson stuff. We talked about that in the past.
Yeah,
Egoism. That's our next one. Egoism.
egoism.
Basically saying that there are some similar motivations in this list as well too. That's related to egoism.
Mhm.
But it's basically saying that self-interest, like everything I do this actually because it's beneficial for me. Like I said, like some sociopath will do some action for themselves, like that feels good. I believe that's right. They have a strong egoism, worldwide moral motivation mindset than others. Do you agree with that? Like, do you strongly believe that egoism exists in your world, in
Okay.
your
Yeah.
motivation?
So for me at least, I would say partly I feel like I'm on a middle ground for this one. So I would probably say like yeah, I'm kind of in the middle ground, honestly. I wouldn't say I'm a true egoist, though at the same time, I wouldn't say I'm not. So I'm also a firm believer of well not firm, but actually pretty firm believer of cynicism, and that's the idea of, if we dig away at all of our actions and we see what motivates them, right? A lot of that will come down to selfish reasons. Um, Granted, you know, that boils all the way down to our biological needs, right? And so that being the case, I feel like egoism definitely does play a good part in a lot of my decisions, whether it's subconsciously or consciously. But I would say not always, though. Try not to be, if that makes sense. And so
Hmm.
that's why I would say no.
I see.
Though, if you dig away at biological reasons, then the answer is technically yes, if that makes sense. Because when you take into like stuff like Maslow's hierarchy of needs and stuff, like why do we make friends? Well, because they can be beneficial. And if you dig away at that at a biological reason, right, uh, they can help us survive. We can find emotional comfort, peace, and that is, in one sense, still technically selfish.
Okay. I haven't talked about this in a past recording, but now I'm thinking back to it, and they gave me a lot of thoughts.
Yeah.
One was cynicism, which is one of the things that we also talk about too. So we
Hmm.
can talk about cynicism and egoism at the same time. For cynicism, if you think about the biological level and of interest of going all the way down, and we think that cynicism exists, do you think all animal being in general, so that's living creature, has a cynicism mindset, even though they don't, majority of them
Hmm.
kind of do have a mind or not? Do you think that every animal has a cynicism in their mind?
I would say both intelligent and non-intelligent beings that have a will to survive in some shape or form, or to survive or to go on and reproduce, is yeah, I but like for whatever I just said, I think that applies. Whether like if you're just trying to survive, it applies.
It's like,
Or even finding satisfaction in some way or another.
because that means that it's not. I mean, that is the answer. Whatever action that we try and do is trying to survive. Like, at the end of the day, right? All
Hmm.
human beings, like, just going to a humane level, not just more into animal or living being animal like level. At the end of the day, we try and survive happily
Hmm.
and just survive in a good way and continue our legacy by reproducing child or giving legacy to someone else or giving a good
Yeah.
impact. That is the world that we want to live in. That is what we want to decide at the end of the day. Trying to, well, at least ignore all the achievements and all the like next generation. At least to survive and for a humane point, happily, right?
Hmm.
And happily comes from happy thing is a self-interest thing. So
Exactly.
everything should be cynicism, right?
Like even if
Okay.
we go higher up, like why am I friends with you? Because I enjoy your presence, right? It brings me enjoyment to be with you. That is,
Right.
in one
Which is
sense, selfish.
cynicism. But
Cynicism.
do you think that's selfishness in a way? Like,
So the matter of whether you view it as such depends. Whether you view it or not, like I think at least we're talking about cynicism, right? It's a matter of what the action is and what does it benefit, not so much how it's viewed.
I guess so. I guess so. I mean, hmm. I mean, I do agree now thinking back to it because last time when I talked about this recording, I was like, I
Yeah,
don't
it's all
agree that
fresh in the
much.
mind. It's like, food for
Not
thought. Kind
sure.
of let us stew and think about it.
But now I'm thinking about it, I'm just
Yeah.
like, now I, it's nearly, okay, it's like Mother Teresa would not have this at all, but like nearly impossible Gandhi would not have this cynicism, but majority of people will do. Because like I said, we have multiple motivations along with it. But cynicism definitely is hitting hard now. Now thinking back about it. But egoism treats self-interest as a foundation of morality, satisfies their own desires.
Yeah.
Like purely, that's a bit off tangent in my opinion. I don't think that's relates to me in general.
Hmm. Now, based on my understanding, I could be slightly wrong on it with egoism at least. Egoism is a bit more of a conscious decision,
Mm-hmm.
if I'm not mistaken. Of actually like actively thinking of, oh, this will benefit me. I'm going to
Yes,
do this.
that's
Yeah,
that's 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 the egoism right
yeah.
there.
I would say I'm half and half for the most part. At least when it comes to decisions that would affect others. I would say it's half and half.
So when you're saying that you're making a decision whether it's ethical or not, but if it's beneficial to me, that you would do that as my self-interest
Yeah.
because it's ethical to me in a way.
Ultimately, it would depend on how much people it would affect, right? Because, like I said, I'm very much a utilitarian, and so if there's a majority of people who would be affected in a disproportionate way, where they would suffer and I would gain, right? Then obviously I would choose people, the people themselves, and the better choice for them. But if it was just one other person, and it was just me, right? And let's say now, like I said, very situational. I don't know this person, right? um, Chances are I'm going to favor a decision towards myself, right? That's at least how I would go about it. Or like I said, situational. If it's, let's say it's a friend, right? And I know that they could benefit from this more than I would give it to them.
I don't know. I don't listen to egoism that much relatively than others, like compared to you, in my
Hmm.
opinion.
It's very
Cynicism,
situational
though.
for me. That's why I kind of say right in the middle.
Cynicism, though, I would say that much more.
Yeah, definitely.
On the topic of cynicism as well, too.
Hmm.
Um, do you think that this mindset itself, I know that we're talking about its biological level itself, like trying to survive and be happy, the human level itself is cynicism right there.
Do I think it's toxic?
But that's not toxic, right? I mean, I think that exists everywhere. Like
Hmm.
it's nearly impossible to say that I have no cynicism. I do not really
Yeah.
whatsoever with it. It's nearly impossible to see that person. I'm not saying impossible at all. Nearly impossible.
It's like the
Um,
idea of a true altruist.
yes, which is very hard to do.
Hmm.
Very, very hard to do. But do you think that external forces like the government, the organization that you work at,
Hmm.
the community group, your family dynamic, your friend groups, could influence the way that makes you think that that gives you thoughts about cynicism over time? Do you think that would be the case? Because like for instance, I'll go to very least impactful government, right? United States is a very individualistic government
Yes.
itself. Um, in other words, they're very selfish in a way, saying that or economy itself, like it's like like we can see the Second Amendment is in the United States is bearing we have the right to bear arms, right?
Hmm.
Which makes it seem that we're not collaborating with the government. We're not collaborating with the police department. And if there's a crime going on with it, I'm going to be the one to make my self-interest to protect my family household. Therefore, I'm bearing arms in a way, right? That's sort of a cynicism there. And the government says that you can have arms, you can have guns in your apartment or your house that you can have if you want to have it be, right? Do you think those organizations still provide cynicism mindset to change individual motives in a way?
Do you think they like as in so you're saying do you think they encourage that
Yeah,
mindset? Um,
encourage might be a better way instead of
yeah.
desire or forcing them.
Maybe encouraging an egoist mindset. I wouldn't say cynicism. Cynicism I feel like is more of a
Egoism,
yeah.
okay, and at least in
So
the United States, right?
yeah, I would kind of say so. I think I wouldn't say it's purely based off like due to a government. I would say it's more of a cultural thing. Because oftentimes, well, granted, I guess you can say the U.S. has its own culture, a mix of which,
Right.
yeah, no, I mean, so I would think so, because a lot of who we are is influenced by our own environment and kind of the people around us, the organizations around us, the institutions, and all that, right? So I would say it definitely plays a huge part. What about you?
I think so too. I think so. I think the government, not the government, just in general, any organization stuff does provide not just egoism, but just any like if you live in an environment, like, hypothetically, and
Hmm.
saying that the world itself is saying that all the action that is judged by based on the Supreme Court judge or whatever the judge is using, is based on the idea of utilitarianism, right? If that's the moral mindset of all the action decision itself, or
Hmm.
whether it's right or wrong, and you see that in your eyes, in the organizations that you associate with, you might think that if that's right, then I'll also think in that way and tend to think in that way. And I think that's a big influence factor. I'm not saying that it's something that's out of control. There are certain people who will different avoid it, which is possible, but there will be the one, those organizations will be encouraging people to do thinking that way. And we can see the United States is encouraging people to think egoism, as Peter said, right? I think that's is what's going on with it, in my opinion.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I think so. I think that makes sense. All right, man. I usually, fun fact. Usually, if you remember the past recordings, I this time is usually my prime time, but for some reason today I'm really sleepy today, so I'm trying to be in my
I
wake up as
feel
much as
that.
possible. My eyes are just like oh my
Yeah,
god.
no, that's kind of how I've been feeling as of late. Feel that too. It's the long drives.
It's a long drive. Yeah.
I've had a couple long
Uh,
drives past few days a little.
Contractualism. Let's talk
Yeah.
about that. Scallon, who is the one who identified as satisfied a hypothetical contract between moral agents, between parties, and so in a society or an organization itself. They think that what's acceptable is which no one could reasonably reject doing. Like they would not reject a hypothetical contract that includes something. Like if an action is accordance with principles that
Mhm.
no one would reasonably reject, then it's moral.
Agreements.
So we are saying that if you agree that's right, and I also agree that that's right to do it that way, and everyone else is agreeing that way in some way, yeah, that's good everything. But that's only within the organization. It does not have to be everyone. Like within the
Okay.
organization, majority of people says like, yeah, sounds good. We should. That's morally right to do so.
Yeah, I would say so. I feel like okay, so I do have one critique with contractualism, and that is that situations can change, and those contracts or just agreements upon parties may no longer be applicable, right? But so long as they're applicable, right, and those moral agreements between people are held, I would say that's kind of like the ideal situation. But otherwise,
Mm,
when situations can change, and so as such, agreements between people can be broken. That's at least kind of how
right,
I see it.
right. For my case, is that okay? This is more. It's a similarity of Kant dentology, but also
Okay.
same time as utilitarianism as well too.
Mm-hmm.
Because the majority of people agrees within the organization saying that that's right. With using categorical imperative, right? Of saying that's right. If they think that's right to do, I also agree that's right to do as well too. Or I think that's right to do, and that thing, right?
Yeah.
Combining that with utilitarianism, I don't agree, but I like what if the organization all is like their motive is trying to be bad? Like it's not like yeah, we're gonna be bad guys. It's like
I guess then it
their
would.
action.
I guess then it would depend on who it affects. Because if it's like within those two parties and the effects are just purely on those two parties, then I feel like then in such a case and the situation doesn't change when since the contract was made, then I think it would still apply. But if it affects other people outside of the agreement, then different story.
Right. I don't know. I certainly don't agree that much relatively.
Hmm.
There's a hypothetical contract which makes sense
Yeah.
going on with it, but it's a that contract could be very relative. There we go. That's what I'm looking for. Relative in a case.
Hmm.
Like for our case, we have a contract that's relative in a way that makes sense. But if we apply the same logic to some like a similar organization type thing,
Yeah.
the same logic, it won't work for there.
Yeah.
So it's a very relativism mindset when it comes to it.
Oh
That's why I
yeah.
was like, I don't agree that much relatively than others.
Varies by the
So
party.
and then you. So you can literally. Oh, I'm sorry, my eyes are literally just zooming out. I really want to be awake. Oh, okay, theory of justice. No, shut up, Ken. Let's do this. Theory
Theory
of
of
justice,
justice.
basically saying that um, whatever action it is, if it's fair to everyone and it's equal and it gives equal opportunity, that is yes, I'm going to do that action. So now, which you decide is from a veil of ignorance. If you know what there are different social positions within the society, and cannot know what position you will occupy, what will you decide to do? Right? That's the thing that we decide about. Because this boosts opportunities for the least well off, it could potentially be you as well too. Like let's say, I'm giving bad examples right now, but a good example I can say is typically the person who sliced the cake or sliced the pizza is gets the last piece. That's the equal opportunity. I'm the one who's giving the opportunity, trying to be equal as much as possible.
Hmm.
If I was trying to be greedy and weighing
You'll
cut
cut
one piece
yourself a
bigger than
bigger.
others
Yeah.
bigger, I won't get that piece because someone else would take it away.
Hmm.
Right? That is the theory of justice mindset. A metaphor for that would be a binoculars. Look behind yourself to the community you're embedded
Hmm.
within. So, what do you think? Do you resonate with that motivations much more than others?
In most cases, I would resonate with pretty well with it. Um, Now, you bring up the cake situation. Not gonna lie, like I would probably slice myself a slightly bigger cake if that's the actual decision.
Fine.
But if it, for more serious things though, definitely I am one to always give everybody a chance. I think that's kind of one of the biggest things, and I think like if you were to ask a bunch of my friends from my Discord server, I'm very much that way about how I go about moderating it. At least when I need to moderate it, I don't think I need to moderate that much. I kind of set up to self-moderate, but when people do have conflicts and I do mediate, my biggest thing is trying to, I guess, I'm trying to keep most parties happy while also at the same time avoiding booting people out. So I try to give everybody a chance. That's at least the philosophy I go off of. But yeah,
Hmm.
that's at least where I kind of sit.
I think I agree with that motivation too. Like I believe that, like for example, like for me, it's a good way to put it as like giving like scholarship by itself. Like
Hmm.
it is nice that I received a scholarship from Oregon State University that I attended and got awarded and relieved some pain of burdens of paying tuition away. Right.
Yeah.
But I think from theory justice comes into play. I believe that it also should be fair that I should tell other people that I got the scholarship, and therefore you should apply as well too, because I believe that you're qualified to go on and spread the word. Right. That's something that I believe that what I like. That's basically theory of justice. Like, because I got that scholarship as well too, you should also get it as well too, because I believe that you deserve it as well too in a way. Again, that might be some cynicism statement along the way, because it's beneficial to see you be happy, makes me happy in a way. Ontology, I mean,
Hmm.
a bit into it, but like I believe that theory just comes to the biggest place saying that hey, you deserve it too as
Yeah.
well too, because
It's interesting.
I understand that.
Yeah, it's interesting you actually mentioned that and like signing up for scholarships. It's like, God, it's like a survey, right? Or not a survey, but a giveaway. And you're telling your friends to sign up for it, right? Knowing that even then it'll lower your chances, but it gives everybody an equal chance.
Right.
That's actually a very interesting thing you bring up. Yeah. At least for me. So if it's like a general giveaway, I would sign up I send it, but like I would still send it to a few friends. I wouldn't send it to a massive amount. That's me personally. So it's like I
I
guess there's a
mean,
little middle ground. There's a threshold where it's like,
so
uh,
like if it's a giveaway,
yeah, no harm, nothing too crazy.
nothing too crazy about it. I mean,
Like let's say
I was like,
it depends on how
I was
big the
like,
giveaway is too.
let's say that they're giving a PC, a
Okay,
2K worth PC that has decent spec, not the best, but
sure.
decent specs. That's a good PC that you can have as a secondary piece that you have right now.
Hmm.
Would you tell that as a giveaway to other people?
So like I said, it depends on the scale of it, as in like how many people are signed up. If it's like a million people, then yeah, I would just send it around because it's like that's not gonna affect my chances. If it's like five people, then different story. I'd be like, I will still like bring it up to a few friends, but I'm not gonna bring it up to like 20 or something. If it's just five people initially, I'll probably bring it up to like four others, you know? Like,
Hmm.
so there's a balance. It's like I- I'll share it, but not so much to the extent where it kills my chances. So it's kind of like what I mentioned earlier, right? Um, weighing selfishness with selflessness, you know, and trying to bring both of which to kind of a comfortable place. If it was something like a scholarship though, where you're having to write an essay, you know, I would send it out to all my friends or whatever, whatnot. Why? Because here's the thing: if you're writing an essay, right? If your essay is like
Bad.
worthy, then it's going to get it, right?
Hmm.
But if it's not, then you don't get it. Simple as that.
I would still give it the giveaway. Like, I'll give it a giveaway, but I'll tell the people that who are interested. I'm not gonna tell everyone. It's like, hey, get in, sign up to this
Yeah.
and do this. Like, if I tell you that, oh, if you go into the Adidas app right now and you sign, there's a giveaway that you can get a
Hmm.
signed jersey from team from Arsenal, Manchester United. Where else is it? Juventus, and then Real Madrid. You can get a signed jersey of all the players to
Hmm.
give away right now for free. Like, would that be beneficial to you? Would you do it if I just told you like
If
this
it's
right
something
now?
like that, then yeah, I would kind of just send it out. Because, like I said before, it also depends on the context, right? If what kind of thing it is, giveaway it is, right? And who needs it most, right? If I don't feel like I need a PC, then I'm probably not gonna sign up, but I'll still send it to people. Um, yeah. Ultimately, I like utilitarian me. It's just like oh, you need a PC? Great, here, look, giveaway.
This will
Sign up for it.
benefit you. This will benefit majority of people. Then
Essentially, yeah.
see, for me, I would just tell people like whoever
Mm-hmm.
relates to whoever's in that um need, like whoever wants it, like saying like, oh, like there's that. I can just like do that. Like for example, scholarship, I
Mm-hmm.
said, like I believe that you deserve the scholarship, therefore you should sign up for the scholarship in a way because I know that I won't get the chance as well too, because I'm decreasing my chance of odds, but I want to give everyone a fair chance that everyone just
Yeah.
get recognition in a way. And if you get in, that's great. That makes cynicism makes me feel happy that you got the scholarship because I was the one who chose you. Like this goes beyond the idea that I actually am really more close to theory justice now thinking about it.
Mm.
Um, back to my tech challenge internship
Yeah.
time itself. For my job, I was working using Power Automate and Microsoft Clouds itself, right? And I
Mm-hmm.
was using Power Automate for it. And then my friend who works not at Tetronics, who works at Biant at the time,
Okay.
was asking help and trying to do this thing. And then for me, I could just tell him how to do this way, the way that he was thinking to do. But what I did is like I believe that he deserved to learn about this tool called Power Automate to utilize it. And I told him like, hey, this is Power Automate, this is something cool, you should learn about it because this is beneficial and I think it will be more efficient than what you're trying to do right now.
To teach him to fish.
And then I teach him and he got recognition of the whole company, including the CEO came by and say, you did a great job, you changed
Oh,
the idea focus in a way using Power Automate. You enables a new feature that we have not thought about utilizing at all. Thank you so much. So, and he got a return offer from that company as well too after that. So, I don't know if he accepted or not. I don't think he did, but he because of what I did,
Yeah.
he got an result itself. And like I said, theory justice, he deserves the right to learn about this too. Like there's like I'm not going to be sneaky about it and
But
don't
it
tell
does.
anyone
It
at
didn't
all.
hurt you. It didn't hurt you. That's
Didn't hurt me at
yeah.
all. Right. So and it's morally right, to, in my opinion, to
Yeah.
go.
By
So
no means. Yeah.
okay. So I think theory justice resonates me much more than deontology now. Last time when I did recording was the opposite.
Okay.
Deontology was higher than the theory justice now. Theory
Hmm.
justice is now higher. Virtue ethics. Uh, we go by virtues. Individual virtues by Aristotle, right? I can't talk about these philosophers. Um,
Aristotle.
there's two Aristotle. There you
Yes.
go. And then Confucius.
Confucius. I think it was. Yeah.
Okay, cool. He focused on family, community virtues. Basically saying that there's no reason, there's no like end result we're looking for. There's nothing like, oh, this is right or wrong, therefore you're doing this, or there's no, but it's
Hmm.
just we want to be good beings. Or for a solid astro, whatever his name, can't talk, saying we just want to be a good person as an individual, or the other one is we just want to be good for the whole community or association or the social group that
Hmm.
I'm part of and try to be as a better position than before. It's basically looking at yourself in the mirror or looking at taking a selfie in the camera saying that am I being good? Am I being good at myself, reflecting myself in a way that I think that this is doing good, this is being what I'm being with it. There's the virtual words of saying that I believe that is right, therefore I'm doing it. And for me, I personally resonate this as the strongest
Okay.
because there's no like if I believe that's right and I believe that's going to tends to be a good person or the community will be a better representation than the others. Yeah, I think we should do it, even though it will not be beneficial at the end for not a lot of people. You should do it.
Hmm. Similar. I wouldn't say quite exactly. If I'm understanding this correctly, this is essentially the idea that if it'll benefit people, then make the decision. That might be an oversimplification.
Kinda yes, no. When you say for the people, it means within your
Community.
social group,
Okay.
community, right? It might not be the majority of people at all, which
Okay.
is your utility and stuff. It could be, which is aligns your utilities are there, and you can say
Hmm.
virtue ethics along with it. Like the end result is great for maximum people, and it's being me or my organization as being a good representation itself. Therefore, I'm doing this, right?
Hmm.
You could do that, but sometimes your team, your group that you believe that you that identify is not be big as the
Yeah.
whole majority of people.
Okay.
So a good example that I can think about right now is I hate to say it, but climate change.
Okay.
Um, being part of the climate change movement and going on with it, and therefore it's a good person's behavior trying to contribute to the environment that we should think about acknowledgement oneself. It's good and it'll be beneficial to some people in a way,
Hmm.
trying to do that, but it's not going to be beneficial to the entire world because some people, which is majority of people, still kind of disagree the idea of what climate change is and does not believe it that much.
Okay.
Okay.
So to kind
So
of be a virtuous character, basically.
basically,
Okay. Yeah, I would say I would say at the highest level, like at least what comes first in mind. That's at least kind of the way I would think when it comes to making ethical decisions, right? Obviously, we all want to be good people, or at least most of us want to be good people. I'd hope.
good job, good job, good job. Because I
Yeah.
down all them.
So it's like, obviously that's gonna be the first thing you think of, right? To be good to others, to treat others as you would yourself, to be virtuous. But then after that, then you start hitting other layers of moral dilemmas and moral perspectives and considerations.
Right.
But otherwise, yeah, I would say I resonate with it pretty well, at least at an initial standpoint.
I think I resonate a lot with it. I think that's probably my highest one,
Okay.
virtue ethics, because I believe that I'm doing this because I believe it's right.
Yeah.
If I'm not doing that, then I should like if that's not going to not be represented as a good person, then I should not do that in a way, like or for myself internally.
I think that's good though. That that I resonate with that statement too. What you just said. Like especially the part where you're like, you doing what you believe is right. I think that's initially, at least at the very core, what needs to be thought of first. And to actually take action on what you believe is right, I think is actually pretty key.
Mm-hmm. All right. I was going to do moral sentiments.
Moral sentiments. Oh yeah, that works too. Oh, I didn't see that. Yeah, yeah, sounds good.
Moral sentiments. I know that you couldn't hear it, saying that practicing good habits such as honesty, generosity, and etc. makes moral and virtuous person.
Hmm.
The goal is more a sympathy and compassion in moral
Okay.
sentiments. What acceptance is an action that comes out of feeling sympathy and compassion towards others. A morally good society is also a prosperous one, because all nature in a dive to do so, doing good goes hand in hand of doing well. That is the moral sentiments.
Okay. I don't know. I feel like I would lean into that pretty well. It's very similar to how I would see virtue ethics, if that makes sense.
Hmm.
It's gonna be like at a very high level.
It's a spin-off. It's a spin-off
Yeah.
of virtue ethics. I
Yeah.
think so too. I agree as well too.
We're on the same page. I would pretty
But
much.
which one do you agree more? Virtue ethics or moral sentiments?
Mm, I'd probably say virtue ethics, like initially.
I think so too. It's not like I relate to that person, not
Hmm.
sympathy or compassion with it, or trying to practicing something
Yeah.
to be better with. It's something like
To do what's right.
I just I do so, therefore I'm doing it. Like something like that statement. That's where I believe
Gotcha.
with it. Um, we can talk about quickly about hedonism and altruism because people might be on the call. Maybe people on the podcast will be like, "What are they talking about?" and skipping that. So hedonism, that you define as here,
Yeah, hedonism.
believe that believe that prioritize the pursuit of pleasure and the avoidance of pain as the ultimate goal in life. So it's like egoism,
Yeah.
but
I feel like that
subtract yourself.
yeah, I feel like this would fall like, at a very low level, like if we just strip away everything else, this is like right above cynicism, if that makes sense. But in in the sense that I guess I feel like everybody has a very slight bit of hedonism in them, like at their very core, very similar to cynicism, you know? But that's after you strip away a bunch of other moral perspectives and views and like beliefs. So that's not to say
Not
that like,
everyone, not everyone, but majority of everyone. I can see that. I can
yeah,
see
if
that.
that makes sense.
Because, like I said, the actual end goal of our life that we want to live in
Hmm.
is to live happily,
There you go.
possible, and happily converts us pleasure being positive. So
Hmm.
there you go, and avoiding pain. And
Granted,
then altruism,
yeah.
yeah,
Granted, hedonism, like, if it were to be taken on as, I guess, more prominent position in someone's morals, that would be people who kind of just go do whatever they want. There are people out there who do that, but
right,
Anyways,
right,
altruism. Yeah. I
altruism.
mentioned this earlier. It was like, okay, I personally do not think there's a true altruist. I don't think there's such thing. And
Which is
with altruism, it's essentially the opposite of the cynicism, kind of. Um, and what altruism is essentially the selfless concern for, one's own well-being and essentially caring for others, and prioritizing their needs over their own. So that would be disregarding one's own needs and wants and preferences, stuff like that, all for others' preferences, needs, and wants, and their own benefit, right? Without them considering themselves. So essentially, like I mentioned, just basically about the opposite of cynicism. I try to be as altruistic as I can. I think that's always a good trait to have. But I don't think there's ever such thing as a true altruist. If there were such thing, they would have given everything away.
Because like I'm thinking about a protester, right? A
Yeah.
protester who decides not to eat anything at all. Like, those kind
Okay.
of people who kind of protest, right? So that it goes in very deep that I'm doing this until you guys change something in the way wrong with it. Therefore, I'm not going to eat at all. That's it. But again,
Mm-hmm.
there's a limit to that. Like, if that
There's a
person
limit.
continues doing that, that person will die at the end of the day, and that person is not considered as a true um, altruism, in my opinion. Right? Even Mother Teresa, Gandhi,
Mm-hmm.
Buddha, Jesus. At the end of the day, there is cynicism behind it. Like
Yes.
at the end of the day, right? So I agree. There's no truest form, in my opinion, as well too.
Even if someone were like you mentioned, kind of a starving protest, something I just thought of is like that is still very slightly there's still cynicism behind that because right
Right.
even if they do end up ultimately dying due to starvation, they die with the satisfaction of knowing that they died for what they believed in.
I agree. I agree. Um, let's see. Yeah, I don't know. Altruism is very much. I guess it's there for me, but
I think it's always good to try to be as altruistic
it's
as
what I'm trying to
possible,
be. But
but
it's hard.
it's
It's
very
really hard.
difficult. Yes.
All right, top three. Top three.
Top three: utilitarianism, all the way up there for me. Tied with cynicism because you cannot deny it. Not that I, you know, like not that I like support it fully, but you cannot deny it. Simply put. Um, and then
It's between virtue, ethics, and theory of justice, isn't you?
one of those.
Watching he pulls up the egoism card.
Bro, it's out of nowhere, just like egoist. Yeah, no, virtue ethics.
Virtue ethics.
Yeah, those are my top three. You?
I think virtue ethics is top one.
Okay.
Cynicism is top three, and then theory of justice is top two. So virtue ethics, theory of justice, cynicism. My opinion.
And there you have it.
So we got it. We made it through
We
the
made it
podcast.
through.
I know I did not want to record it when it sounds like sounding quote unquote boring, but for us it's fun. It's just
Yeah.
I'm
Tired.
tired.
No, I feel that.
The
I feel
problem,
that. It's just like it's hard to give at least good entertaining reaction and dialogue when you're tired.
yeah,
No, I feel that. I've been there before. Like I think yeah, there was like one or two of our past podcasts where I was like that, so I feel.
yeah, no, like FYI, the recording that we're doing is on a Sunday and it's about to be Monday, and we
Hmm.
both of us is have work. For you, you have 8 a.m. I also have 8 a.m. as well too, but usually
Yeah.
when I go to work, I usually go to bed at 10 a.m. So,
Yeah.
and I wake up at 5 a.m. So,
Eee. Ooh,
so
you're gonna have a
it
rough day.
so I'm on a bit of rough here right now. So
When does your workday start?
technically I can start whenever I want.
Okay.
Usually when I'm on campus, I start at 6 a.m.
Hmm.
But
Oh wow.
yeah, I well six technically seven because 6 to 7 I think
Yeah.
work out, and then 7 to 4 or 3 I work, and then maybe if I want to do more work, I do it in the after like in the
Gotcha.
evening
That makes sense.
remotely. Right, so
Yeah, I wake up 2 minutes before work and open my laptop.
see there you go. See there you go. That's the life of remote right there.
Remote. Be like, all right. Anyways, you want to roll us out?
Sounds good. So this was Ken who did our podcast at 12:28 a.m. on July 17th of 2023.
Yes. And I am Peter.
All right, signing off. Peace out.
Peace out. Y'all have a good one.